Just to apologise in advance to Dermot from the MBRU, because my time is very short and I specifically asked that the taxi drivers would come in today, so I'm going to fire most of my questions at them because I think they have been ignored. But maybe one question to you very quickly, Dermot, is the subsidies to public transport in Ireland were lower than almost anywhere else in Europe before COVID. You know, could you maybe, for the public's benefit, just say how low they were and how COVID really adds dramatically to the case that we have to have a substantial increase in subsidy to public transport, which now more than ever is more essential? So maybe you could answer that. But I'll just throw the rest of my questions at the taxi drivers. I mean, it's obvious that the taxi drivers have been ignored, that they're being treated with contempt by the NTA, and now their industry has been absolutely decimated, and there's no roadmap really back, pardon the pun, for taxi drivers in the current period, because all the associated things like tourism, live entertainment, music, bars, all the things that would have given them the possibility of having some sort of sustainable income are on the floor as well. I mean, I suppose my question is around this, maybe for you to state the case why the income subsidy to allow people to go back to work is so crucial. And would you agree that the failure to extend that the pandemic payment to people over 66 really put taxi drivers who were over that age in a very, very dangerous position health-wise, and that even now taxi drivers are caught in a terrible bind? If they go back to work, they lose their payments, but they can't actually earn a decent living in the current situation. But if they stay on the pandemic payment, they're facing a payment that will be cut and cut again, and indeed has already been cut. And the dilemma that faces, that puts taxi drivers in. And the other thing then just is about taxi numbers. I mean, we had more taxis in Dublin than they had in New York before COVID, but now the idea that the NTA would continue to issue licences for new taxis in a situation where the industry is on the floor just seems crazy. So maybe the taxi reps could just indicate a little bit about that, and also just about maybe that appeal for the grants that have been giving out, large stimuluses that have been given to some businesses, that they should be given to taxi drivers to cover those €11,000 of annual fixed costs.
In addition to the licences that's been issued by the NTA, a lot of them would be wheelchair, well, all of them would be wheelchair accessible grants, and these individuals would have bought their vehicles, would have had to have the vehicles on the road before getting the wheelchair accessible grant. And now, unfortunately, they're committed into an industry where there is absolutely nothing. But they still have to go through the whole lot. The grant is for 3 years, so they have to take up the auspices of that. The NTA should have looked into the pandemic and looked at some way of reverting back from it. It's not only the old age pensioners in relation to the COVID-19 having to get out there to work, it's people that were on the back to work scheme as well. A large amount of them would be in their second remit in relation to the payments. They have 3 years in relation to back to work scheme. So they have no option of getting out of it either. They have to subsidise their income in relation to it as well. So the grants, there should be a moratorium immediately putting on the issuing of plates, and we will have one majorly oversupplied industry with no tourism across the whole of the country in relation to it. The NTA needs to look at other aspects in relation to school transport and the rural transport system to facilitate drivers in relation to there should be some 2 or 3 stimulus packages, a back to work or a get out of the industry sort of a grant system, the same as it was given to small farmers in relation to it. So,
can I just mention as well, it's our understanding that the National Transport Authority are on the verge of entering into an advertising recruitment campaign for taxi drivers. That's our understanding. Now, this is very worrying that they're trying to recruit people into an industry that's on its knees. And that must be, we must hear from the NTA on that to assure us that they're not going to try and do this. In relation to supports for drivers, you mentioned about all the drivers and the situations they were put into. You're right, drivers are put into a very delicate situation, a choice that they have to make, their health or their finance. And there is no mental issue support, if I can get the right words for it. There is no support for people with mental issues. I mentioned mental problems and the stress that this has created for people throughout Ireland. I'm not just talking about taxi drivers, but because I'm talking about taxi drivers, what has the government put in place to support taxi drivers? You know, they haven't contacted any of the representative groups to offer any supports or guidelines on the mental side of things. So this is one of the things that's it's been forgotten about. But in regards to the step-down payments, it has to be come in. There's no way that a driver is going to step off the cliff and have no money. We have to have a step-down system in place so that drivers can go out and not be dishonest, by the way, because some drivers may think I have to go out and work while I'm getting the COVID payment because I don't know where my future lies. So we want to be honest and upfront and forthright. So we're looking for step-down payments so as drivers can gradually work their way back into the industry and gradually pay off the bills that have been accumulating from the fixed cost that the NTA have set down. €11,433 per year is our fixed cost, and we believe they're vastly underestimated. If we were sitting in a room with the NTA now, we could double them.
Waldron, thank you, Deputy Boyd Barrett.